There's a man that's been accused of some absolutely crazy crimes, yet he technically lives for free. He lives in a 30-room mansion on public land, whilst the average Brit struggles to pay for their accommodation and feed their family. Of course, you know who I'm talking about. Prince Andrew. Every time I say Prince, I'm going to beep out Prince. Let's just call him Andrew. Now, I'm not a big royalist, but I think sometimes we have to have meaningful conversations, and these conversations help to show us that the average person is just a pawn in this game. Prince Andrew was accused of sexual assaulting a trafficked teenage girl in connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, these are allegations that, of course, he's denied, but he also settled privately for around £12 million. So according to the news, he's lost his royal titles, he's lost his public duty, but he hasn't lost this mansion that's funded by the public. So while millions of people in the UK are struggling, their rents are going up, accommodation costs are astronomical, Prince Andrew every single morning gets to wake up in the Royal Lodge, surrounded by 98 acres of land and a 30-room mansion inside Great Windsor Park. You couldn't write or make up this story if you wanted to. People who are working full-time can't pay rent, they're struggling. Yet Prince Andrew, this publicly shamed man, who I can't say whether he did it or not because I don't want them to come and take me out, but he gets to live in luxury, technically rent-free, whilst the average person in the country is struggling. So I dug a little bit deeper to try and understand why this is the case, because if this was the average normal renter or tenant in the UK, they would have been displaced, evicted a long time ago. So in 2003, Andrew, don't know if we can call him Prince Andrew, struck a deal with the Crown Estate. So the Crown Estate is the organisation that manages land and property that's owned by the British public. I think a lot of people assume that his accommodation is owned by the royal family, but it's actually owned by the British public. So he agreed to pay £1 million for a 75-year lease. And part of that agreement was he would spend around £7 or £8 million on renovating that property, effectively upkeep. So in exchange, he was granted something called a peppercorn rent, which effectively means nothing. So even though this property owned by the British public is worth millions of pounds, he gets to live there for free. And the reason I wanted to make this video is I want you to see and understand how your tax-paying funds is being utilized. So when we say the average person is struggling because of this person or this religion or this group of people, I want you to understand that the average person doesn't have money because much of their money is being misappropriated or spent on providing free accommodation to people like Prince Andrew. So the Crown Estate isn't part of King Charles's personal property portfolio. It's public property. And I think if more people knew that, there would be greater conversations around this. The profits generated from properties within the Crown Estate goes to the treasury, not to King Charles' pocket. That's what helps to fund the state. That's what helps to fund services. That's what helps to keep the NHS going, to keep the buses going. Looking at the numbers, a mansion like Royal Lodge, where Prince Andrew lives, could easily rent for 400,000, 500,000 per year on the open market. And this is why I really wanted to dig deep into the numbers. Royal Lodge, where he lives, on the open market could rent for around 400,000 to maybe 500,000 per year. He has an agreement to stay in that property for up to 75 years. So if we look at the loss to the public in terms of 400,000 times that by 75 years, that's over £30 million. That's money that could have gone to public services, housing, or even a tax relief. Yes, it might only end up being £1 or £2, but I'm sure we would rather £1 or £2 in our pockets than it going to help people like Andrew. According to some research, if he's removed from the Royal Lodge earlier, there could be money due to him. If he loses his lease before 2028, the Crown Estate might actually have to pay him compensation, hundreds of thousands of pounds, maybe millions of pounds from our pocket just to have him removed. My frustration is this: if a normal person refused to pay rent or ignored paying their bills, they would be evicted and out on the streets in weeks. But of course, if you're a prince, if you're Prince Andrew, it's a completely different game. The same government that's telling people to, tighten their belts, we're in for a rough ride, the same people that's allowing a man that's been accused of sexual assault to live in a taxpayer subsidized mansion rent-free. We're in crazy times. Absolutely crazy times.